Hey guys, sorry if there's any stream interruptions or anything, but yes, this is live as we speak. I got about 28 minutes before I have to clock into work, but I wanted to come on here real quickly and talk about something I already discussed. And ironically, this morning, Dr. Wolf posted around AM Pacific. He posted his own take on it, and that is, of course, the announcement at New York Comic Con this past week, that we will be getting a 10th season of the animated series of the animated My Little Pony Friendship is Magic series, but in comic book form. Now, I talked when I first when I first reported it a couple of days ago, and even Dr. Wolf kind of, you know, repeated some of my same feelings. There's a lot of things you can get away with, obviously, in comic books, especially with the comic book adaptation. You know, you could do a lot more. There's a lot more leeway. And I can honestly tell you this, with the announcement that we're getting a 10th season of the animated series, but in comic book form, honestly, for someone like me, I've always been looking for something to subscribe to since Archie Comics and Sega parted ways and thus ended the Sonic the Hedgehog comic, which I had been subscribed to since about, what, issue 71. And I wrote that thing out all the way up to about, what was it? Um, I'm guessing 278, 279, 280 actually, 280. I think it was actually 280 was the last issue I ended up getting. But I wrote it out that long. And honestly, for someone like me, you know, I've always, like I said, I've always been looking for something that I could resubscribe to and sink my teeth into and be able to look forward to. And I'm just in there, look forward to every week, honestly, or every month, or every couple of weeks, if you will, so that I can, you know, see what's going on. And this here to me is probably a great thing for them to do. Now, I've speculated, and I'll say it again, we don't know exactly what the issue length is going to be, or how it's going to be distributed, how it's going to be released. Because we know, here's the thing, we're used to seeing episodes on a weekly basis. However, comics are a little bit more different because they could be bi weekly or monthly, or even bi monthly, for all we know. So, for all we know, the length of the issues could be the traditional um, 26 episode length. Basically, what I'm saying is the issues could be the traditional 26 episode length when it comes to the animated series, but in comic book form. So instead of 26 episodes, you would get 26 issues. Now that would span over about a little over 2 years, unless they go the bi-weekly route, which would cut it in half, and you would get a span of about maybe 2 years at most, if maybe a year and a half. So, um, I I honestly can say it best that if we're looking at issue length, like how many issues we'll get for this season, you know, compared to episodes, I think honestly we'll get 26 at best, which would match up to the regular 26 episode length of a regular animated season. Or we'll get 13 at the least, which would match up to the season 3 episode uh, um, episode length that we got for that season. Or it could measure out to 52, which would compass, or which would compass, what's the word I'm looking for? Encompass, or encompassize, or encompass, or whatever you want to call it. Um, would basically be a legitimate excuse, if you will, to make stories multi-part, so that you know you have to tune in and see them. That's the whole thing. Like you have to tune in and see what's happening or what's going to happen. So to encompass, that's what I'm looking for, to encompass maybe the excuse to probably make a story go beyond multiple issues. Now, one thing that I've mentioned, and Dr. Wolf has even mentioned, is the comic has done things that the animated show teased, has teased a little bit, uh, kind of nodded at, acknowledged a little bit, but never really went into any further details. And he's even meant, and basically Dr. Wolf said the same thing I think I've and everybody else has said. Uh, the comic, the comics so far, from the comic book adaptation, the comic book continuity of Friendship is Magic, to some of its spin-offs, have been given a more darker at times tone, a more mature tone at times for the characters and the stories. And like I said, they've explored, and like he said, and I've said, they've explored things, they've touched upon things, and they've explored things that we have yet to see get touched upon or explored in the animated. So, a comic book adaptation or continuation of the series with a season 10 opens the doors for that to happen. I mean, Dr. Wolf said it best, and even I said it as well. You want to go back and watch my live stream when I first talked about this. Um, there's many story arcs that have yet to be truly followed up on or been given a true resolution. Some fans look at Daring Doubt as basically being a stupid resolution to the whole Daring Do situation. So maybe season 10 can rectify that in comic book form. You know, who knows? Maybe they'll give a reason why Ali Zolo is now acting all nice and everything. And, maybe he manipulate the truth amulet or whatever. So that it makes it sound like he's telling the truth, and maybe he's got something else in mind. I don't know. That's just a speculation on what they could do. Another thing that they could do, and I've touched upon this as well, is they could actually explore the romantic side of things for the main six, or the main eight, if you will, main seven, whatever you want to call them, or however you want to look at them. The main six, main seven, main eight, whatever. However you want to look at them. Basically, this, to me, like I said, opens the door to many possibilities for that to be explored. I mean, a lot of people look at the ending of Dragon Dropped and like, yeah, Spike and Rarity are still somewhat an item or still somewhat of a ship that we can get behind and really see becoming reality. And the comic could actually explore that. As a matter of fact, if you go back to one of the first major arcs of the comic, and it was the Nightmare Rarity arc. Spike was the last member, was the last one of Rarity's friends that said what he needed to say to break the spell that the Nightmare magic had on Rarity. What he said at the end, when he gave a heartfelt speech to her, and one of the last things he said was, "Please come back to me," or "Please come home to me," or something like that. It broke the Nightmare Magic's hold on her, and she was freed. Heck, they even went as far as, during his first attempt, to have him almost say the three words, "I love you." And in the last panel of that Nightmare Rarity arc, you have the main seven sitting on a heel, and Rarity has her arm around Spike, holding him close to her, and you see a freaking heart emoji on top of, above them. Whether it's for both of them, for Rarity, for Spike, who knows? Perhaps you're looking at it's probably both of them. If the comic is willing to go that far with something like the Disparity Ship, and have Spike be the one that actually is the last one to break the spell, to help break the spell, then who's to say they won't look at Dragon Dropped and be like, yeah, the whole Spike Gabby thing might be cute and possible, but this thing here with Spike and Rarity's been going a lot longer. This feels more believable. No matter how fans look at it, this feels more natural and believable. Let's go with that. And they could. I'm not saying they would. I'm not saying they would. They could go in another direction, what have you, but you never know. Another thing is, I talked about the fact of how the Big Mac question felt like a great resolution and closure to the whole Apple family arc. Perhaps those working on the season 10 comic will feel otherwise and be like, you know what? That can't be the end of the Apple family arc. Let's explore it even more. Let's look at it even more. And they might even want to explore the marriage now of Sugar Bell and Big Mac and see what goes from there. They might even want to try to bring the parents back in. Maybe do a story where Applejack does finally meet her parents, even if it's in, you know, um, celestial form or whatever you want to call it, astral form, if you will, or spiritual form. Who knows? They might want to do that, and I don't think anybody would be against that. Heck, Dr. Wolf and I both kind of said that the other thing that could be looked at is how Twilight's going to adjust to her new role as the ruler of Equestria along with her friends as the co-rulers. How are they going to adjust into the roles and all that? And what about the CMCs? One thing a lot of people have been asking and wondering is what about, is Sweetie Bella ever going to learn to fly? Is she at least going to get that opportunity? And a lot of people, have been wanting to see that, and maybe the comic will finally explore that. We don't know. Um, overall, this whole season 10 comic continuation in comic book form, courtesy of IDW and Hasbro, I think honestly it's for the best. I think it's great. I think it's a great move on their part. They know that fans want to see the animated series continue in some shape or form, and this is a good way of doing it. I really think it is, because again, like I said before in another video, it reminds me of when the Archie comics, when they had the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book under had the license, I should say, to distribute and publish Sonic the Hedgehog comic books. I remember when Sat AM, went off the air around 94 and 95, that the comics still continued on, even with their own continuity, but they would also pay homage and nod and reference, if not, like I say, pay tribute to the Sat AM series by, sometimes readapting an original episode into their own continuity. Like, one of the things they adapted was Cry of the Wolf, and how Sonic and Sally and Antoine met Lupe and the Freedom Fighters, or her Wolfpack Freedom Fighters, I should say. So, so stuff like that. They were able to readapt. They were able to adapt that episode and bring it into their own continuity, but they also were paying homage. They were not paying tribute to the Saturday morning cartoon series. But the one thing the comic did that was a little bit different at times was the fact that they had a lot more leeway to be more dramatic, more darker, more mature, and they took risks. They actually killed off characters, believe it or not. They actually killed off characters, and as much as I hate to say this, one of the biggest risks they took was between issues 230 and 247, where they roboticized Sally. Yeah, they roboticized Sally. I think it was the end. Yeah, it was the end of issue 230, and throughout 247, with a few issues of spin-off the spin-off comic Sonic Universe to tie into it. So almost for about 50 issues plus, they basically took a beloved character in Sally, roboticized her, had Eggman weaponize her, and some people might say gutted her, rebuilt her, whatever, into this Mecha Sally that she became. And it was a risk that they took, and they were originally going to take it up to 250 or 275, That is until all the behind the scenes situations, mandates, and all that lawsuits. And that's all for another video. I've talked about that already. You can check that out on my channel here. Came into play. So what did they have to do? They had to basically end it quicker than they wanted to, and then use a soft retcon reboot to explain her restoration, or explain the fact that she's back to normal. She's flesh and blood again. Heck, they were even planning to take a chance, had the comic continued, on showcasing visually, in a way, that Sally and Nicole were lesbians, that they were a couple, that they were becoming a couple, if you will, and that they were LGBTQ. And that's not been done in the comic before, and there was plans to make that happen. You see what I'm saying? Now the cartoon, I'm not saying didn't take risks like that. The cartoon introduced us to characters we met in the Ponyville Mysteries, Anne Holiday and Aunt Lofty, as the first true LGBTQ couple in the series during Last Crusade. And then if you look in the background during the more recent episode, The Big Mac Question, we see confirmation, and it's pretty much been known throughout the series itself, almost since the beginning, of Lyra and Bon Bon proposing to each other simultaneously. So I'm not saying that the animated series, has never taken any risk. What I'm saying is the comic has more leeway to do a lot more than just, have LGBTQ characters in it. It could do a lot more stuff that for some odd reason the animated series could do or is alluded to but never has. So again, to me, I think, like I said, I think this is a great move. I know a lot of fans are not particularly fond of it, but hey, I look at it this way: if you're somebody that's been looking for that alternative to what you used to subscribe to in another comic, but don't anymore because that comic, in my case, the Sonic the Hedgehog comic, was canceled because the partnership between both sides crumbled, if you will, or parted mutually. I don't know. If you've always been looking for something to, be that next comic you want to subscribe to, you want to get interested in, to me, a season 10 comic continuation of the animated series for Friendship is Magic is, to me, that comic. And to me, this will be the comic I finally subscribe to for the first time since the Sonic one, because it'll be something that I can sink my teeth into. And honestly, I've read some of the issues. I have some of the issues. I have one of the graphic trade paperbacks with multiple issues in there. And I've enjoyed what I've read. I really have. So all I could say is I'm glad. Like I said, all I'm going to say in closing is I'm glad they're doing this. I can't wait for April 2020 to happen, for this to come out. And I'll tell you this: IDW, you want a subscriber to the Friendship is Magic comic book series, and mostly the season 10 comic continuation of the animated series, you got one right here. There's no doubt. And like I said, we don't know what the episode links is going to be, or anything, or the issue links is going to be, whether it's the traditional 26 episode deal like in the animated portion, whether it's 13 at the least, which was like with season 3, or if it's going to be 52 at most, to encompass maybe multiple part issues, if you will. So we'll have to wait and find out. But that's all I'm going to really say, guys. Let me know what you all think down below about this. What are your thoughts? What are you looking forward mostly to the comic book continuation of the animated series with season 10? What do you hope to see explored? And what characters do you hope will get some focus? And what romances and ships for the main 7, main 8, main 6, if you will, do you want to see become reality? Or at least get a bit of a story arc to become official, or at least have some kind of resolution. Let me know down below. Comment if you like. Thank you all for watching live. I really appreciate it. And that's a dog in people's backyard there. But again, thank you all for tuning in live. I really appreciate it. Let me know. Let me know again what your thoughts are, and I will talk to you later. I got to get ready to get into work. I got to use it as well as I got to use the restroom first. So let me know what you guys think, and I'm out.